So quick recap of this latest, wave of censorship. On Twitter, they went ahead and banned Scott Ritter. Again, Scott Ritter is former Marine Corps intelligence officer, United Nations weapons inspector. They just banned him, and the reason they did this, we went through this tweet just earlier when Scott was on. Again, even if you disagree with him 100% on every single thing he says, every single thing he has said, you can't read this tweet that he posted and say that it actually violates Twitter's rules. It doesn't fit there. Honestly, I think this is part of this whole campaign of cracking down on people who, again, are not necessarily truth tellers. You don't have to agree with Scott, but they stimulate critical thinking skills, and that's very, very no and faux pas today. And then George Galloway the same day. So George Galloway, of course, is a legendary member of parliament, a Labour MP, right? Former Labour MP. And, he opposed the Iraq War while he was in parliament. He's always been very anti-imperialist. And look what they did to him. They slapped him on Twitter with this label that says Russia state-affiliated media, which is ridiculous because they've literally banned RT, so he doesn't have a show anymore on RT anyway. So I don't understand. Like, for years, right? He said it himself. For several years, he was on RT with this show, and they never gave him this label. So why are they doing it now when his show doesn't exist anymore? Do you see what a smear tactic this is? Here's George Galloway's comment. He said, "Dear Twitter support, I am not Russian state-affiliated media. I work for no Russian media. I have 400,000 followers. I'm the leader of a British political party and spent nearly 30 years in the British Parliament. If you do not remove this designation, I will take legal action." And then, of course, you have blue checks coming in to say that, he shouldn't keep his Sputnik RT affiliation in his biography, right? People are basically saying, well, why did you change your biography? You're trying to hide something. No, the guy just didn't get around to it. His show doesn't exist anymore because they banned RT. I mean, I really, I don't know how much simpler we can break this down. Here, Mark Sloboda underneath says, why on earth should Galloway keep his Sputnik RT non-affiliation in his bio? He ended his shows being aired on RT and Sputnik. They no longer exist as of this week. That's why he changed it. Okay? I mean, not that it's anyone's business anyway. Not that he has to justify it, but that's the reason. And of course, he makes a very pertinent point underneath. U.S. state-affiliated social media platforms, they only do that to countries that are not aligned with U.S. politics, right? So you have Iranian, Chinese, and Russian state-affiliated media labels, but you never see British, you never see American. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to validate any moron who's going to come here and tell me that the US and the UK don't have state media. You should never open your mouth about politics. You are a moron. The thing is, it's not just that the UK and the US have state media. They have corporate state media. That stuff is even, everything that they accuse state media of being biased, controlled by the state, no editorial freedom. Those things are objectively worse in the UK and the US. I'm literally showing you one manifestation of it. Dissent is not allowed. They will either smear you or ban you. Same thing with former journalists, New York Times, who had to leave because of, opposing the war was not allowed, and all these sorts of things. Scott was talking about this earlier, with RT. He just writes what he wants to write about. No one tells him what to write or how to write it or what to say. So again, everything they accuse foreign state media of is just simply not true. Yes, it is biased. Obviously, they're very open with their bias. Yes, it's state funded, but it's not carrying a state narrative that's mandated on the writers. Do you understand? No one is forcing anyone to repeat that. It's basically, you can come on if you're talented and say what you want to say, including criticizing Russia. You have that editorial freedom. Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. So what's more important? Having editorial freedom as a journalist in media or not having editorial freedom? Obviously, that is number one. That's the most important thing. And that is what makes a media outlet or a news outlet or a paper report responsibly on things. You don't have that in Western outlets because they already have a monopoly. They have, they have no need to even entertain such things. It's like, screw you. We meaning the New York Times, CNN, BBC, they already dominate the airwaves. They don't have to, afford any wiggle room for dissent when it really comes down to it. There's no need. Another thing that I would say also here, which Mark pointed out underneath, is that George Galloway's show is produced by his British production company and picked up by Sputnik. Okay, so again, it's George's show, and they just buy a license. That's my understanding, legally speaking, right? They just buy the license to air it. So again, no one is telling you what to say. You have to know something about George Galloway. It's George Galloway. You can criticize him all you like, but he's not bought. That's for sure. I mean, this is ridiculous to think that he's bought or someone tells him what to say. That's absurd. You don't have to like him. You can disagree with everything he says, but to insinuate that is absurd. And the fact that he's been on Twitter for I don't know how long. I mean, I've been on Twitter for like 1.5 years or 2 years. I don't know. I'm quite new. But he's been on there for ages with that show, and they never put the label on. And now the show doesn't exist, and they put it anyway. What is that? That doesn't make sense. And it's like reducing him to just that. Again, he's been an MP for 30 years. When people think, oh, it's George Galloway, they don't think, oh, he's Russian state-affiliated media. It's George Galloway. He's a very popular British politician, whether you like him or not. And reducing him to just like, this is not okay. Come on, man. The label is inaccurate, and it's trying to achieve a certain objective, and the goal is to discredit people by saying that they are basically mouthpieces for the Russian state. It's not true. You don't have to agree with George, but to say that he is a mouthpiece for the Russians is bullshit. No one tells him what to say. He is, come on, man, don't insult his intelligence. I think he's old enough, mature enough, experienced enough to form his own opinions. Again, you don't have to like them, but to say he's a mouthpiece is absurd. It's utterly absurd. Even he apologized afterwards because he realized that George doesn't have the show, right? Because they're trying to point out, oh, look, you changed your bio. Yeah, again, the show doesn't exist. Oh, man, it's really exhausting. People, they have a certain narrative in mind. They have a certain thing that they want to smear you with, and they no matter what the facts are, they're going to continue that way. It's like with me, right? I have almost 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Alhamdulillah, thank God. No one tells me what to do. I don't have Vladimir Putin standing over my shoulder. You don't have to like me or agree with what I'm saying, but to imply that it's bought or something, that's absurd. There's literally no financial incentive. There's no logical incentive. So it's just bullshit. They know that. But the way liberals operate is they can't debate you or address your arguments ever. So they only smear you. I'm not saying this to gas myself up. I've literally never seen anyone criticize my work. Like, oh, this was wrong, what you said here, or factually incorrect, or there's always insults. It's always personal attacks, because that's all they have. That's the level that they stoop to. That's their level of intelligence, if you can call it that. So again, it's smear tactics. We'll silence you, we'll attack you, we'll censor you, but we'll never actually address what you're talking about, which is very reminiscent of what the Israeli lobby said in that Al Jazeera documentary, right? Always attack the messenger, never the message. That's how it goes. They want to smear you and chastise you, and that's what they're doing here with George Galloway, right? Say, oh, he's just Russian state affiliated. Come on, that's rubbish. George Galloway has had the same views before RT was there even existed, and he would say the same thing, even if he never had a show on RT. So come on, right? So literally, while Scott was here doing the interview with me, they've given him his account back. Take a look at this. So he just posted this. It says, well, it looks like I've been reinstated. No official word from Twitter about what the problem was or why it was resolved, but I'm sure they took notice at the concern expressed by many of you here on Twitter. Thanks for speaking up in defense of free speech. Good night. Amazing. Good, very good. So again, thanks to all of you who spoke up. And I remember when they demonetized my YouTube channel for no reason, right? I think it's because they didn't like my Israel coverage. I was doing a lot about this annexation plan. A lot of you also, you were outraged on YouTube. Actually, you were outraged against YouTube on Twitter, and it worked. So this is great. I'm glad that you gave him his account back. I mean, he shouldn't have gone through that in the first place, but better to have it back than not, of course. So that's good. Some good news, right? That's very good. I hope they also remove this stupid label from George's account because that's just absurd.